So with that, Lynn, you should have share control right now. I want to mention that Lynn has been a fantastic partner for PEDC. PEDC works mainly with the companies and getting companies investable, investing in the companies. Lynn's organization kind of picks up with that company development, but then really does a great job of policy knowledge and influence at some level. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Lynn. You should be able to. I'm going to stop sharing, and you should be able to start sharing. Oh, there we go. All right. So Lynn, with that, you kind of kick it off here, 7, 8, 10 minutes. I'll just kind of keep an eye on the clock, but let it go, and I'll give you a chat when you have about a minute or so left. All right. And I'm going to there you go.
There we go. I couldn't unmute myself when I maximized my slides. So, okay, I just want to confirm, are you seeing my full slides in the sharing for you? Terrific.
We are. Looks good.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much to Dave, Molly, Augie, Janine for inviting me to speak today. I think, as I said earlier, there's a lot of enthusiasm about just diving in and understanding where we're going to see opportunities with this new administration. So I'm happy to talk a little bit about some of the policy outlook as I see it in terms of policy signals and financing opportunities for clean energy. I'm just going to give you a super quick overview of the Clean Energy Business Network. We serve as the small business voice for the clean energy economy, working to support companies across the nation through policy engagement, market and technology education, and business development assistance. And we represent more than 5,000 small and mid-sized business leaders across all 50 states and a diverse spectrum of technologies. I just want to highlight a couple of resources that we have available for earlier stage companies. We offer a COVID-19 Small Business Resource Center with information about all sorts of financial assistance, as well as other resources to support companies during this economic crisis. Additionally, this year, in the wake of COVID-19, we opened our clean tech funding database to the public for free access. And that's an aggregation of more than $1 billion of federal grant opportunities, state, private sector, incubator or accelerator funding opportunities, and all very searchable by technology stage, type of technology, and type of resource. So please do consider that to be a resource for yourself, for your company, or for companies that you work with. We also offer a lot of information about the clean energy economy. We have infographics on the state clean energy economy across all 50 states, plus the District of Columbia. And we also do communications, such as case studies on business leaders that are paving the way for some of the energy transformations we see across the nation. So if you think you have good candidates or your company is a good candidate, definitely feel free to get in touch. In addition, we were recently awarded a subcontract with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory and Department of Energy to help support entrepreneurs competing for energy innovation resources, including the American-Made Challenges and Small Business Innovation Research programs at the Department of Energy. So we are working on it through events, outreach to prospective candidates, supporting these teams, and helping to build networks and partnerships. And I just want to flag there's actually several upcoming prize opportunities for consideration. One in particular I know that the DOE is really interested in getting some good ideas for is the Groundbreaking Hydro Prize, which seeks to address foundational issues in hydropower development. And I think they're really interested in diverse ideas from people not necessarily even in the hydro industry that might have solutions to bear. So let's get to the meat of the topic here, which is the federal policy landscape for energy innovation. I'm just going to start with a really quick, a lot of this is very rudimentary and probably familiar to many of you, but a quick overview of the types of financing structures that have a federal policy signal. And I think that the two panels that we're going to have this afternoon are going to really touch on this in more depth. So the first type is appropriations, which is where we allocate funding to the federal government. And a lot of that then The grant programs that we see coming out of the Department of Energy and other agencies, those are funded through this appropriations process. And that runs on a fiscal year from October through September. There's routine infrastructure bills that allocate funding outside of that. There's direct funding allocated for specific programs. And those are the Water Resources Development Act, Transportation, and then the National Defense Authorization Act. So they kind of operate independently of the appropriations process that funds the majority of these agencies. We will also see supplemental or emergency bills in response to economic, for economic recovery purposes or in response to disasters. And then there's tax bills, which can include both revenue positive measures, such as, I know there's been a lot of discussion of things such as like a carbon tax. That would be an example of something that generates revenue. And then the revenue negative, such as the tax incentives that we provide to stimulate things such as renewable energy and energy efficiency development. And then there's debt and a whole range of other similar kinds of programs, loan programs office, credit subsidies, the concept of green banks, which is present right now at the state level, not federal level, PACE financing. And then of course, public-private partnerships such as energy savings performance contracts and cost sharing on grants and other types of federal funding. So the reason I'm setting the landscape for this is because that's going to tie into some of the policy opportunities that I will discuss. So first, just rewinding a bit, a significant thing happened at the end of December with the enactment of the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, which offered substantial increases in funding for a number of Department of Energy programs. It also included extensions of a number of tax credits, that particularly with the idea that many industries were unable to utilize these tax credits in this past year due to the economic crisis. And these range from 1 to 2 year extensions. And new tax credits established for offshore wind, waste heat to power, and second generation biofuels. There was also a energy innovation title, which had a whole range of bills that had previously passed the full House, as well as the Senate Energy Committee, on authorizing research, development, and deployment of a whole range of next generation technologies in storage, nuclear, renewable energy, energy efficiency, and more. So this brings us to where we are. Actually, we are at first day +1. We're at the second day. So yesterday we inaugurated the new administration. And even prior leading up to that, we've already seen a lot of cabinet officials announced. And some of the confirmation hearings for those folks will begin very shortly, including the incoming Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm. That's scheduled for next week. But I think one thing is very clear, just looking at the cabinet appointments. President Biden has appointed climate-related experts and advisors across all of his national security, economic, and environmental agencies and platforms, and elevated some of these to very senior White House positions. So this is setting a really clear signal that climate action is going to be a big priority for this administration. On day one, when you're president of the United States, day one does not involve finding the water cooler and the bathroom key. You get to work right away. So yesterday, President Biden signed dozens of executive orders into effect. And here are a number of environment-related ones that were included, recommitting that we will be re-entering the Paris Accord in 30 days, rescinding the Keystone XL pipeline permit, beginning the process of rulemakings to walk back Trump administration rules that would have relaxed standards for methane emissions, fuel economy, appliance and building energy, coal plants, and a whole range of other issues that I'm not going to get into in great depth. So that process has kicked off. Within the first 100 days, President Biden has committed that he wants to convene an international climate leadership summit. To me, I don't know yet if this will be a virtual summit. I would hope so, but we will wait to see, and really wants to reaffirm the United States' leadership in driving the decarbonization of the global economy. We should expect to see some broad outlines of released in terms of the proposals for how President Biden would achieve the emissions goals that he set forth in his campaign to achieve a carbon-free power source by power sector by 2035 and emissions-free economy by 2050. But also in Congress, there's a lot of activity. So right now, working out the balance of power of Senate Democrats and Republicans on committees, quick action to approve a whole range of political nominees, the ongoing impeachment trial of President Trump, and then we will hopefully be seeing some action on COVID, public health, and economic relief, and that could be coupled with an economic stimulus or infrastructure package. And then finally, Congressional Review Act to walk back some Trump administration rules. So finally, in the first year, there's 4 major crises that the administration and Congress will have to address on the COVID-19 front, economic recession, the racial injustice, as well as climate change. And I think we'll see overlapping activity in economic recovery, infrastructure, social policy, and environmental policy on all of these issues. So finally, this is sort of a rough sketch of the time frame of all of these activities that I outlined. We're going to see a lot of activity in the first quarter on budget and appropriations, as well as starting to roll back rulemaking, and some of those funding and infrastructure bills come later in the year. I'm just going to leave this. You'll receive this if we circulate slides, some links to some proposals CEBN has developed that we hope to see enacted in some of these packages. So this is my contact information and website, as well as my staff's information, and we're happy to be a resource on any policy questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. That is a perfect backdrop for what we're talking about for the rest of the afternoon. I think anything that we want to do from PEDC point of view, I think from a Leaders in Energy point of view, and also from the people on the call, really need to know where kind of the big money's flowing, if you will. What the policy is doing, what the federal government is doing, really puts a lot of tailwinds behind these things. So I think having that backdrop that you just gave us for the next 2 panels is really fantastic. And thank you for coming. To share my screen here, and the slide is going to say thank you. There we go. Yeah, and so if anybody wants to contact Lynn, all of those slides are going to be, certainly we're recording the event, and I believe, I'll check by the end, Augie, and with Janine, that we're going to circulate the slides as well from the event. So then thank you very much. That was really fantastic. So let's continue on with getting toward our panel.